Hello, welcome to SQA's IATF 16949 Auditor Training for 2020, the SQA ECP review process. My name is Michael Fournier, and I am the manager of the IATF 16949 sector. The following video training concerns the ECP review, or better known as the audit package review process. This presentation was created by Barb Stump. Unfortunately, due to audit commitments, Ms. Stump was not available to record the training video prior to her departure for a 4-week audit stint in Mexico. As such, it now falls on me to present this presentation. So why do we have an ECP review process? Per the IATF rules, section 5.12, certification decision. The certification body shall have at least one member of the certification decision function who shall exercise veto power on the certification decision. Ms. Lisa Musinski performs initial reviews to ensure required documents have been submitted with some overview for potential showstoppers, such as not meeting the audit duration, incorrect or conflicting dates, and inconsistent IATF OEM supplier codes. Barb Stump performs technical reviews, which are more in-depth and tend to look at issues relative to the audit plan, packages, reports, and check sheets. The final review and approval is currently performed by Jeanette Preston, Brian Keckler, or myself, and we approve typically what Barb reviews, or we add our own comments. Certification decision, basically grants or not grants, is required for the following audits: initial certification after an initial audit, continued certification after each surveillance or special audit, recertification after the recertification audit, and certification after the conclusion of a transfer audit. I would also note that this includes special audits, since such audits can result in a decision to withdraw certification, whether the special audit is to resolve a major CAR, 100% resolved CAR, or due to a customer complaint. IATF Rules 5.12 further state that information provided in the final report is sufficient with respect to the certification requirements and scope of certification. Any opportunities for improvement issued are supported by documented objective evidence of conformity, which refers to section 10.0, rather than nonconformities misclassified as opportunities for improvement, or written in terms that can be viewed as consulting or recommendations to address a nonconformity. It should be noted that the IATF considers the misuse or inappropriate application of opportunities for improvement to be a major nonconformity issued against the certification body. It is also conducted for nonconformities found during the audit that have been reviewed, accepted, and the effectiveness of the correction, root cause, and corrective action were verified, or the client's planned correction, root cause, and corrective action has been accepted as 100% resolved as per clause 5.11.13. I will mention that the misuse of 100% resolved was identified as a nonconformance during the last office assessment. Accordingly, CQAM 107 section 5.8.3 was revised to specifically identify that 100% resolved CARs must be submitted and approved by an IATF ECP member prior to submission of the supplemental report and/or notification to the client. Failure to obtain this approval may result in rejection of the package by ECP and, based on timing requirements, a determination that the audit results are not acceptable and that certificate withdrawal is required. So how does SQA document the required reviews. Form SQA-10 is the document used by SQA ECP team to document reviews of all audit packages. The form is split into 3 different sections. Part A is to be completed to review any audits where non-conformances have been identified. This initial review serves several purposes. 1, that NCs have been properly classified. 2, if the results of the audit indicate suspension is required, even if these issues were only of minor requirements. 2, that suspension has completed when a major nonconformance has been issued, and determine what, if any, impact exists to any IATF OEM customer of the organization. Part B is essentially a back office review and is required for any name changes. This is not to be used for client moves or relocation. I would refer you to FAQ 2 and 3 of the IATF rules sanction interpretation regarding such moves. Part C is completed upon final submission of where there was a final report, no nonconformance, or when there is a supplemental report. There are several subsections in Section C. The general section is completed by the OSC. Sections A through I are completed by the technical reviewer and designated ECP member. Part C in the general section verifies that SQA and auditor competency requirements have been met. It includes verification of training records, including the IAF codes, and ensures no conflict of interest exists between the client and SQA and the SQA auditor. I would note that IATF Rules Section 2, Management Impartiality, states that the certification body, its auditors, whether full-time or contract, shall not offer or provide management system consultancy, site-specific auditor training, or internal audits to our currently certified clients, or have provided to a new client within 2 years prior to contracting as their certification body. The rule also states that the provision of training, documentation development, or assistance with implementation of any management system and related training, such as core tools, Six Sigma, and lean manufacturing to a specific client is considered consulting. The rules do not recognize, or the rules do recognize that training open to the public, not specific to a client, and held at a public forum is not considered consulting. I will stress that it is highly important that you adhere to this requirement. If you find yourself in a situation where you realize you may have crossed a boundary, then please call me. It is better for us to be ahead of such issue than behind. The OSC, in her general check, also checks the audit plan and report submission timing and that it has met that required timing. She also checks that the Part A is completed as required. For the review completed by the technical reviewer or ECP member in sections A through I, we will not focus on the specific items, but on common issues where performance is not meeting expectation. So section A, under pre-audit planning, it concerns primarily the SQA 125. The common issues that we have seen: current versions of the pre-audit letter are not per the requirements in the templates. Current version of the SQA 125 is not being used. The SQA 125 is not in the file, which most likely means the auditor did not submit. The SQA 125 is not complete, such as missing dates, missing information on documents reviewed, results of analysis, etc. The SQA 125 from a previous audit was used. Creative, but not acceptable. Support sites and or sites supported or extended manufacturing site addresses and or interactions are not properly documented. Audit plan and agenda. Before we continue that, I would note that the SQA 125 is not necessarily the friendliest document and seems to be overly burdensome and requiring you to verify that you are meeting the rules. However, many of the added requirements were instituted in response to IAOB nonconformances where it was clear that a requirement was not met. So please complete the document if in the future we do see some of these issues no longer occurring, then we will consider reducing or removing a checkpoint. But for now, the document will not likely be revised except to address another IAOB NC. So on the audit plan and agenda, most common issues: outdated versions of the audit plan and agenda templates in use. The audit duration is not accurately recorded in section 1.8 of the plan. Audit time is not added correctly. Audit time per auditor is not identified in section 1.9 assessment team. Note that this is not just the audit time and does not include, or note that this is just the audit time and does not include corrective action, follow-up, the 1 hour pre-audit, etc. In section 1.3, additional checklists used is not listed, or if not applicable, the not applicable block was not checked. Tables such as the manufacturing process or customer specifics are copied from the prior audit and the information was not updated or is no longer applicable to reflect the current audit status. The auditing of interactions and linkages was not clearly identified in the agenda, or support site scopes were not clearly identified. Auditing of shift changeover when more than one shift exists and shifts overlap was not identified in the audit agenda. We will skip section C of the check sheet because that concerns primarily the transfers, as the issues identified concern more back office errors rather than auditor performance. So in section D, we have the common issues with the SQA 05 IATF. Not using the current version. I would note that the current version is now available in BOSS, so there should be no reason in the future for not using the correct version. I would note that the check sheet will likely be revised in the near future to eliminate, to eliminate some redundancy and to streamline the process. I would also note that many of the checks in the SQA 05, like the SQA 125, were a direct response to an IAOB CAR for failure to conform to IATF rules. Again, if we see where the issues are not occurring anymore, we will consider eliminating the need for a specific check. Scorecards, scorecards, scorecards. And by the way, we need the customer scorecards to be submitted with the check sheet or as separate documents. If you continue to not submit, then I will likely require it to be a mandatory upload, just like it is for the audit plan. Reports and checklists are now in BOSS. We need the scorecards, especially for the IATF OEMs, as we are required to update the IATF database accordingly, and the IATF OEMs use the IATF database to verify certification status of their suppliers through the use of the supplier code. If it is incorrect, then the information in the IATF database is incorrect and will cause unnecessary emails from IAOB on what the correct code is, not to mention the potential for issuance of a special major NC. No evidence that the automotive process-based approach was applied, as it is not clear that the product control plans, FMEAs, and process flow diagrams were used during the audit of production, as they were not attached to or referenced in the SQA05 notes. In cases where the client does not permit you to copy these documents, then as a minimum, the document should be identified, such as the part number and revision level in the SQA05, and make sure that it's recorded in the supplemental pages. We will skip section D as it pertains to document in the SQA05 for the recertification audit. However, as we are now entering a significant period of recertification audits, please ensure you complete these documents in this section of the SQA05 appropriately. Section I should be, or 1 should be completed as part of the pre-audit planning, and section 2 as part of the post-audit reporting. Also, as it is a recertification, please ensure all processes are covered. Our next section concerns the audit report. The most common issues here: use of the current audit report template. Obviously, this is a recurring issue. Same issues as identified in the audit plan, since if the audit plan is incorrect and you copy it over into the audit report, then the audit report becomes incorrect. Verification that the next audit meets the timing requirements, because a specific audit week is chosen rather than a date. And this is obviously a potential issue if that date that you put in there, or the week you put in there, includes the date at which we would be either beyond the surveillance audit timing or the recertification audit timing. Client actions in response to poor scorecard or internal KPI performance is not always clear. CARs or nonconformances issued are not listed in the manufacturing and support process and assessment summary log tables. Finally, the last section in section F concerns corrective action responses. Common issues for this area include the objective evidence submitted by the client doesn't always include the root cause methodology. More specifically, the root cause methodology that was used to identify the root cause, such as a 5Y, fishbone cause and effect, Ishikawa diagram, KT analysis, etc., was not found in the audit records. And it must be clear what the final root cause was so that we can review and determine that the corrective action is appropriate. The systematic impact isn't always included in the CAR analysis. It is imperative that the nonconformance is not viewed narrowly. Failure to do so could result in the client being issued a major CAR, the subsequent surveillance, if, in the experience of the auditor, the previous corrective action should have included the current scenario as a potential impact. Objective evidence or files embedded in the CAR or the audit report will not open when uploaded into SharePoint and now into BOSS. This is often the case when a PDF creator or other word processing program that is used that is not common to the industry. If the client sends you a document that is in a format that is not common, you should request they send in another format, or if possible, convert the document to a recognizable format prior to submission to SQA. We cannot overburden our IT department with multiple requests to convert files to something we can open and read. As a final comment, I would note uh, that the pre-audit letter, audit plan, and audit report templates are currently undergoing some revision, and that the versions in BOSS will be more user-friendly than those released in BOSS Phase 1. For now, Lisa Mizinski, the IATF Cell OSC, will be sending out templates from Sales Logic as they are correct and will populate the fields such as company name, address, IATF OEM supplier codes, etc. We will also be moving to the IATF's Common Audit Report, better known as CARA, within the year, so please be aware that the report and non-conformance report formats will be changing significantly. Thank you for your attention, and this concludes our presentation on ECP review process.